Hey folks, this is Matthew Zachary, and before we get to the show, I wanted to tell you about another show from Offscript Media called The Cancer Mavericks. It's an 8-part deep dive narrative into the very story of cancer survivorship and the movement that started in the United States 50 years ago. This is not a podcast about the disease of cancer. It's a podcast about the people who made it better for all of us. Please search for The Cancer Mavericks wherever you listen to your podcasts and follow so you don't miss an episode. Thank you.
Big news. The Patients Getting Paid membership community is about to launch. This is a community of people with chronic illness learning to find and create flexible, remote work that accommodates their health. I call us chronicpreneurs. There will be trainings about how to build a website, start a podcast, get health insurance when self-employed, maintain SSDI while making money, and a ton of trainings about alternate chronicpreneur careers like voiceover work, becoming a course creator, digital ads management, social media management, e-commerce, affiliate marketing, patient advocacy, and oh, so much more. The founding members launch will offer the lowest subscription price it will ever be, with a plan to increase the pricing immediately after that launch period, which will only be 1 week. So you need to be on the wait list so you can jump in as soon as I open the doors, because the founding members pricing will only last for 1 week. Want to learn more and get on that wait list? Head over to patientsgettingpaid.com right now. Can't wait to see all of you chronicpreneurs on the inside. Welcome to the FUMS Now podcast show, where you'll gain information, inspiration, and motivation for living your best life with multiple sclerosis. Find us online at FUMSnow.com. I'm your host, Kathy Reagan Young. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the FUMS podcast. I appreciate you hanging out with me again. Today, I'm talking with a comedian with MS. Let's be honest, there's some funny shit that comes up, compliments of MS. This should be a great episode. I'm so psyched. But before I introduce you to her, I want to remind you that I send out a great email newsletter every Tuesday called the FUMS 6-Pack that features the top 6 topics in MS from that week. It's full of clickable links to stories, articles, research, all that kind of stuff, all the latest happenings in MS. I curated all for you. You just get to read the good stuff. So get on that email list at FUMSnow.com/getthescoop. I also wanted to take just a minute and thank you all for listening to the pod and leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. I really appreciate your support. Making a podcast can be a very lonely endeavor. You just don't know if anybody's listening. You're creating in a vacuum. So having you leave a rating and review lets me know that there are real people out there listening. And it also helps boost the show's visibility to more people can find it. And it really encourages me to keep going because people are listening. It lets me know that I must be doing something right. So thanks for leaving the FUMS podcast a rating and review. I read every single one of them and I really appreciate it. And if you haven't done so yet, I'd sure appreciate it if you would. Thanks so much. Okay, let's meet our guest for today. Shari Short is a comedian, writer, and naturally a developmental psychologist working in healthcare communication, ? She's opened for Sandra Bernhardt and Sean Colvin. Her one-woman show called It's My Mother's MS, I Just Have It was sold out and approved by her mother, P.S. Shari was diagnosed with MS in 2008 and has written for Momentum magazine and developed the Crazy Cane Lady letter series. Not easy to say, by the way, Shari. Thanks so much for being here, Shari. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack here. It's very exciting now. Exciting stuff. And I love that your mom was good with your one-woman show. So,
so was I.
Yeah. A comedian. That's such a cool gig. I can't wait to hear all about that. But let's start with life before MS. What did that look like?
Yeah. Well, life before MS was suburbia. I was a full-time working mom. chasing after a 5-year-old boy, working in healthcare marketing. And I was a runner. I was, starting to do 5Ks. I wasn't like a runner with a capital R, I wasn't marathoning yet, but, and I was just keeping up with the Jetsons, just like living life. And, I already was self-deprecating, but, apparently not enough. I needed to get an autoimmune disease.
Right.
Yeah.
That helped your career. So that's, thanks, MS.
Yes. So thanks, MS. So yeah.
So everything's just normal. Everything's going well. You, like you said, you're living in suburbia, got a kid and a career and things good. And then, bam. So what happened?
So one night when I was running, when I finished my run, I had pain behind my eyes and I didn't know what that was. So it went away, fortunately, came back, and then it didn't go away. And my sight was getting kind of odd.
Can I just say, had that been me, what I would have taken from that is I ran and my eyes hurt. I should never run again.
That was, and mine was, I ran and my eyes hurt. I must have a brain tumor. That's where I went. Yes, that's where I went. Yeah. And basically, I went, to the doctor. They said, oh, it's migraines. I mean, no one went to MS. No one, until it was in July of 2008, and I remember being like, why my sight is kind of weird. I covered up one eye and I looked at my son. And you remember those in the 70s when we used to get our pictures back, they had like the negatives.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what the world looked like through the eye that was affected. And I could see the outline of my son's face. And I just, I looked at my husband and I was like, something is up.
Seriously wrong.
This is right. Yeah. And
our kid's a negative. We got a problem.
Yeah, yes. He's very negative for a 5-year-old. And I went to the ER. I mean, I went to an urgent care and then I went to the ER. But bottom line, I was diagnosed with optic neuritis. And they're like, good times. Good times. Yeah. So they sent me to a neurologist, and it was pretty textbook how quickly I was diagnosed.
Did they tell you at the ER, like, this is optic neuritis, that's a symptom of something bigger, this isn't your answer and you need to see a neurologist? Or no, you were kind of left on your own to figure that out?
At the ER, they told me, this is vision. We're going to get you an emergency appointment with an eye doctor for the morning. And this is not presenting like a brain tumor. Because I mean, at this point, that's it. There was only one option, right. And so I had an early morning appointment with this lovely eye doctor, and I'm sitting there, and he does his testing on me, and he's sitting with his hands in his like this, like clasped together, like very calm. And he's like, okay, this is optic neuritis. And I was like, well, give me the drops, man. I gotta go. I got plans. I'm going to go see that Mamma Mia movie with my friend Stacey, like, cool. Like, thank God. No brain tumor. We're done. And he just kind of stayed there. I just remember the hands clasped together. And he's like, this is a hallmark symptom of multiple sclerosis. Oh. And at this point, I'm like,
dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. But at the same time, what is that exactly?
Yeah, right.
I've heard of it.
It could have been like my brother thought MS. He contributed to Jerry Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
In my honor. And I was like, thank you. What is that about? Dystrophy. He's like, well, because you have that. I go, I don't actually. No. Wow. So you didn't know anything about MS?
Did you? Really didn't.
Did you know anybody that had it?
No.
Not that
I don't think I did. I think I knew of but I know everything about pop culture that I shouldn't know. And so I immediately went down my list of celebrities that I knew that had MS. And I was like, all right, well,
Funicello. Right. Yeah.
Right.
That was not a good visual then right away.
And Terry Garr. And, Squiggy.
Right.
David Lander. And so and I was like, all right, well, aside from Annette, like they're all still alive. And, but
Right.
these are flashes of thoughts while he's talking. I just needed to kind of be reassured this wasn't a death sentence, and that I was going to be okay. And,
just a life sentence.
Just a life sentence.
Yeah.
But he was very positive, and he's like, a lot of people are able to live full lives, la, 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 but let's get you to a neurologist.
Good.
And so that's how.
Very responsible. I don't often hear such good, positive,
or quick
diagnosis stories. So good.
Yeah.
Good on you. Congratulations. Where do you live that this happened?
That was in, I was living in Wilmington, Delaware.
Okay. All right. Delaware. Mm-hmm. There you go. We're all moving. So, all right. So, wow. Let me just back up for a minute. So,
sure.
Still got the kid, probably still looking like a negative at this point. Still have the developmental psychologist job in healthcare communications.
Yeah.
Still living in suburbia. Mm-hmm. Now you've got this MS diagnosis. What does that mean? What changes because of that?
I said to the neurologist, I was like, can I still have wine? And can I still run? Oh my
God, that was my first question. Not the running. Running, nope, that was not a question for me. Nope. Like, I'm not going to take it up now. Okay, well, the wine, we should be recording this after 5. So
I'm happy to come back.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll make that happen. We need an FUMS happy hour. I think that would be fun. I tried that right at the beginning of quarantine, and I had never heard of this. And P.S., I'd been on Zoom for 3 years already. This was not a new platform to me.
Right.
But I got Zoom bombed.
Oh, no, I've heard of that.
Horrible. I had no idea that was a thing, but it was such a thing. And there was porn being played on my, like videos and people yelling horrible racial epithet. It was horrible. So I haven't tried it again since, but
yeah. No, but you and I can just do that.
We could do that. And I promise not to Zoom bomb you. So I digress. I'm sorry. So, okay, you've got all this going on and now you've got an MS diagnosis. So what does that translate to in your life? What changes?
I think that I got really lucky in the sense that upon the initial diagnosis and the confirmation that I can still have wine and run, that I was like, this isn't going to get me. This isn't going to get me. And with the steroids, my vision came back.
Yeah.
Now I have to wear glasses, but that could have happened anyway with aging.
Right.
I know that, people who saw me with glasses didn't go, oh, she must have MS. Like they were like, oh, you got glasses. Okay. So I guess I sold myself a bill of goods that, okay, MS I'm going to have these attacks. I'm going to take steroids and I'll be fine.
Yeah. No big deal.
And they started me on, injections. And I didn't know if I can name names of.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I started out on Copaxone.
Okay.
And, unfortunately, it was every night. It was every night. So I made a lot of jokes. I was like, I feel like Sid and Nancy, it's like,
right. Me too. I remember the first St. Patrick's Day that I was shooting up with Beta Cerrone, and I took a picture of a glass of Irish whiskey and my shot. And I'm like, I know my dad is proud in heaven. And I have risen to what my mother expected of me at this point. So, yeah.
You're ticking all the boxes.
Shot and a shot. Yay.
So, I was at airport bathroom shooting up. And then I remember at my friend Dan's wedding, I was in the bathroom, injecting.
Yes.
And so it was tedious. But it kept me doing everything.
There's a payoff to it, so you could do it.
I work at an ad agency. The hours were crazy.
Yeah.
In terms of just, a lot of work. They were wonderful, but it was a lot of hours. And and then go pick up your pre-kindergartner.
Oh,
it's just everything was able to kind of continue. And then I was training for a 10K. And this was 6 months into it. And I don't know. I don't know if it's because I ran more, overheated. I don't know what happened. The Copaxone didn't work. I'm not sure, but I had an enormous relapse and lost feeling from on the left side from the waist down.
Mm.
And I haven't been able to run since.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that sucked. That took me out.
Yeah, I'm sorry because you enjoyed running. I was going to say I've never been able to run, but that has nothing to do with MS. That was my choice.
My dad was a marathoner. So every April we had to go out to Boston for him to run. And I thought all dads did that, but I did not discover running until I was, in my late 30s. And it was wonderful.
More impressive because by that point I was like, oh, hell no. Even thinking about that. Yeah.
It was empowering. I was like, I have goals to set. It was fun. It was fun, but then it became something I couldn't do anymore. It made me sad.
Yeah.
So that was,
Sorry.
Yeah. That was the first big hit, but I was like, all right, well now I'm drinking even more.
Right. There's more time to drink.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I was looking at the sunny side of life.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, before we go any further, I want to get into the comedy thing so desperately, but I'm trying to bring us along, a chronological here. So what is a developmental psychologist in healthcare communication? What the hell is that?
It doesn't sound totally clear. It's the kind of thing where I got my master's in developmental psych. I went to NYU for film school.
Oh.
You're
one of the cool kids.
Thank you.
That's cool. That is cool.
And I loved it. But I remember I graduated and my mom was like, what are you possibly going to show? You don't have any skills. She's like, who's going to want to read your paper on the deer hunter? And so I ended up actually, I was like, listen, I minored in psych. I really love this path. And I think that I would make a good professor or something like that. I could use my comedy skills and go that way. So I'm going to go academic.
Yeah.
I contacted, Second City in Chicago, and I got the dates for an audition, and I said, I'm either going to get into grad school, or I'm going to do this audition in comedy. And I got into grad school before it, and I went with grad school.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah. So I never, cool. Yeah. There's just another path, you know?
Right.
I had gone to college with the wonderful, adorable Sarah Silverman. And we were the two women comics, and it was lovely because she really wanted it. And so she was just amazing. And I was so thrilled for her, when the success came, because I knew how long she'd been working at that.
Yeah.
So anyway, wait, I was telling you.
Developmental psychologist in healthcare.
Developmental psychologist in healthcare. So developmental psychology is pretty much studying the psychology of how we make decisions and behavior changes across the lifespan. So why our decisions as adolescents are the way they are, why our decisions as young moms are the way they are, menopause, such and such. Okay. And that's just, the women's
so
speaking.
Interesting.
It, to me, has always been fascinating how our behavior changes based on all sorts of variables. But what I was able to do was I worked in public health for so long because healthy behavior change was kind of what I understood. I understood what were people barriers to losing weight or to preventative medicine, but I missed being creative. So I convinced this ad agency to let me come on board. And I had worked with them in a committee, format in public health. And that really took me into marketing. So from marketing, I got really involved in patient education and health literacy and making patients understand on their level, meeting them where they are in terms of, okay, I understand this much of the science. I understand this much of my emotions.
Yeah.
How much really can I take in, and there's doctors out there who, when it's their own health, they need patient education at a certain level. Yeah. Cause it's overwhelming because you're not just processing it scientifically.
Right.
So that's what I do is I actually develop content for patients.
Very cool.
Based on where they are in the lifespan, truly.
Yeah.
Not just, just diagnosis at a young age, diagnosis at a middle age, things like that. There's all sorts of things to factor in. And I love it. And I love love where I work and all of that, but they let me use my sense of humor for like the office Christmas party. I get to do stand up about all my friends, or twice a year we do employee reviews. I do a fake one, so like,
right.
I'm able to still have both my lives. Yeah. And do stand up when I, or the comedy kind of work I want to do on the side.
Yeah. So I was going to say to you, obviously you are an advocate for humor in healthcare, as am I, obviously. Why do you think that's so helpful?
Oh gosh. I knew that humor was something that was going to get me through the diagnosis and the acceptance, and on all the stages involved, because it had gotten me through other things in my life. So I started doing stand-up when I was 14. So I was very young.
Wow.
And I had read John Belushi. I think Woodward did a book on John Belushi. And it was the best thing I could have read, because it was all about how much his stuff came from a place of insecurity and the fear of not being funny enough to pay your rent. And I made a decision then. I'm like, I don't want that. Sense of humor is a gift. A sense of humor is a coping skill.
Yeah.
I never want to have to worry about, do I have it enough to live off of?
Right.
And when I went that route, then it made it kind of, I don't know, part of my personality, part of my coping, and part of when I gave advice to people. And I started to see how in healthcare, it doesn't have to just be Patch Adams, which is great, but it can be actually going to the people who do a lot of the really hard work. I gave a talk once to a bunch of child life specialists at Nemours Children's Hospital. They're amazing. And they work with sick children, So it wasn't a matter of going to them and saying, what funny coloring books can you offer the kids? It's how are they doing? What are they tapping into in terms of their sense of humor and using it as a tool? What are they afraid of? A lot of us are afraid of, the dark humor, I'm not. That's why I absolutely love the name of your podcast, So, so it became, I think that a sense of humor is critical because it's another release of your emotions. Yeah. It's another way to frame how you're feeling. It's another way to explain things to somebody. Right. If I just talk about the MS like wiring, that's fun. But if I show you, like, I know your listeners won't be able to see it, but like
they can on the YouTube channel. This will be on the YouTube channel.
Hello. I have my cord on my laptop is like, that's MS right there. Like, right. So, it's just, I think a sense of humor makes it really
bearable.
Yeah. And then of course I went through my own feelings about being unapologetic about it, like, cause then I'm like, I don't want to offend. And so,
yeah. And then you got okay with it. You understood that that's actually going to help more people than it's going to offend.
Just own it. And so, I gave a talk in May to a group at Penn, of MS patients and caregivers. And it was, I think the title I used was like, I think my MS made me funnier. And,
right. Yeah, it can. I mean, if you just pay attention, MS is pretty funny. There's a lot of funny shit that happens. That's not funny until you go, I'm going to allow myself to see the humor in this. As you're laying there. Then
the amount of times I said, if I don't laugh, I'll cry. So
right.
Laugh.
Exactly. Laugh. Yeah.
What's up, people? Matthew Zachary here. Let me talk to you about Unraveled, a brand new podcast from the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute that gives us hope about the progress of cancer research. And yes, believe it or not, there's actually been a ton of progress. I mean, who doesn't know someone affected by cancer or someone who's donated to cancer research. While that philanthropy is desperately needed, most people who give don't understand what's actually happening in the trenches of cancer research and the impact that has on all of us. It's time to go beyond the headlines with Unraveled. Listen to the stories of doctors, researchers, patients. Learn about the breakthrough science like using genetically engineered T cells to turn a patient's immune system into a cancer-fighting machine. Yes, that really happens. It's not science fiction. These are stories of the people who continue to fight for better research, better cures, and better care for patients, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Follow Unraveled from the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Are you tired of wasting time making trips to the grocery store, waiting in checkout lines, and overpaying for groceries every week? We thought so. Luckily, there's a better way. Misfits Market takes the hassle out of grocery shopping by delivering fresh, organic produce and sustainable groceries straight to your home at prices up to 40% less than traditional grocery stores. You'll get access to exclusive weekly savings on peak season organic produce, high-quality meats and seafood, and sustainably sourced pantry staples like snacks, pasta, and grains, plus keto-friendly and gluten-free foods. Do your weekly shopping in just minutes with Misfits Market, all with no service fees, membership fees, or commitments. Become a free member today and get $15 off your first order through September 30th. Just go to www.misfitsmarket.com and use code GROCERY15. That's promo code GROCERY15 for $15 off your first order. Misfits Market is not available in all 50 states. For more info, visit misfitsmarket.com.
Humor helps other people. I don't know. They're not as, if I can kind of make fun of my MS, the people I'm talking to are not as nervous about talking to me about MS. You know, I'm not talking about people with MS. I'm talking about people who they're kind of scared. They don't know what to say. They're afraid they're going to slip up and say something like as if I don't know that I have MS. Shh, don't talk about it. Shh. Yeah, don't say anything.
It rhymes with MS.
Right. Yeah. So I think, you know, just kind of, it deflects a lot of, I don't know, pity for sure. And it helps other people, I think, not feel so nervous to talk about it too. So
it's a communication strategy.
Use it a lot.
Yes.
I do.
Yes. I think it has a lot of benefits, but I definitely feel like there's people don't know, and you have to make it safe for them, and that's more effort on you. And I had to get comfortable. I had to get comfortable with not making jokes. I had to get comfortable with saying, "Hey, I'm going through a scary period right now.
Yeah,
you know, I've got this,
right?
But you know, that was a little bit different for me to have to.
Well, I think if you use humor a lot, it's more difficult to go on the other end of the spectrum, right? It's so much scarier to just like let that, because that's a coping mechanism too. And it's just so much easier to revert to that, which you know, and finding humor. But it's when it's really dark and you don't make a joke about it and you're honest about it and you're vulnerable, that's scary. Vulnerable.
Exactly. That's what I was just thinking. I was like, that you know, like people hide behind humor sometimes.
Yeah.
So I've definitely noticed when I've done that and really had to turn that around. And,
I always say I'm Cleopatra, queen of denial. And I do that with humor a lot, you know, I'm fine, and just kind of make a joke about it, but I'm not always fine. And when I have let that wall, I guess, down, interestingly, I would call it a complete mental breakdown last fall. Not really, but you know, with COVID, everything else, I was telling you, my dog died. My husband and I got separated. It was one thing after another, blah, blah, blah. And I just lost my shit one day. And I had been scheduled to do a podcast. I canceled that. And I just kind of wanted to crawl somewhere and be left alone for a while. And then I thought, you know what? I feel like I have a responsibility to these people that look to me. You know, I post on social every day. I blog, I podcast, and now I've gone radio silent. So I I did a podcast that I've still not brought myself to listen to, but I cried through most of it and I was just real honest. And let me tell you, that's to date the #1 downloaded episode. So it resonates. And I'm still, I get emails all the time from people who listen to it and they say, I get it. I've been where you were and I understand. And thank you for doing this because you gave voice to real emotion and you showed that you weren't just, the funny girl or whatever. Putting a happy face on this shitty disease, this is real life. So
for you. And I just thought that was empowering for you and to know that you've done that.
Well, once I started hearing from people that they were good with it and they appreciated it, was great. But when I was doing it and shortly after, I thought I can kiss FUMS goodbye. Nobody, people are going to be like, you're not funny. That's not funny. That's not, no. What does that have to do with FUMS?
It's everything. We are a spectrum of emotions. And I did, this past March, I did a series of videos for MS Awareness Month where I did my own Oscars, each night I did a different 5-6 minute thing on who I was thanking.
Awesome.
And on the last night I did a thank you. And then so sadly I lost my father from COVID last year.
So sorry.
It was horrible. So I dedicated it to him and his amazing spirit and support for me and his tenacity to overcome challenges. And I got all these messages from people who watched the video like, Shari, you made me cry. It was what? That's
opposite emotion.
Yeah. And it was sweet. I was like, look, I'm glad that you were touched and that's okay. And sometimes, if I put myself out there, you're usually going to get a combo. You're not going to just see me and it's going to be like ordinary people, it's going to be a combination of. So
and that's
I was
life.
glad I did that too.
Life's a combination, right?
It's real.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Authentic. So how did you get into comedy and where does that, I know that you said your first stand-up gig was at 14, but professionally, you said that you made this decision, Second City or your master's, you went towards your master's. So it seems like that's always kind of been you and been a part of you. But at what point did you go, all right, I got this life all set, what I'm supposed to be doing. I got kid, I got good job, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to feed my comedic soul. Well, or was that the way it went?
The comedic thing started, the comedy started because, and I'm totally dating myself, but because I saw Joan Rivers on Solid Gold while I was babysitting. Right. And I'm like, I love this. I love that she's up there with the microphone and she's judging.
Yes, she was very judgy.
And I thought she was hilarious.
Yeah.
And I knew that I made my friends laugh. And I thought, what if I could build something that way?
Yeah.
And I was only 14. My sisters would have to drive me down to the Comedy Works at 2nd and Chestnut in Philadelphia, which is where I'm from. And I met the comedians. Now, back then, this is the early-ish 80s to mid 80s. So it was a bunch of 27, 28-year-old neurotic chain smoking guys. That's who was doing comedy. Right. And then there was me. And it's I was like the kid.
Yeah.
And they would talk to me afterwards. They would seek validation from me for their sets. And it was really sweet. And I brought a whole bunch of people to my first ever, I would open mic night, and usually open mic night, if, you haven't done yet,
right.
You're on at 1 a.m. and no one's there. But because I brought so many people and they knew me from just being there and watching it, studying, so I went up early, and it was a great first experience.
That's great. You don't usually hear that. You hear that it was a bomb.
No, right. And you have to go through that, and you have to you have to. I feel like you haven't done stand up unless you've had bad experiences, right? Right. So that's how that started, and it was around that time I read the book about Belushi that I went, okay, this is good, but this doesn't have to be the breadwinner. you know?
Yeah.
But I still, I entertained, I went to film school, I was in comedy groups and all sorts of things. And I have the utmost respect for the people that went after the life of on the road and stuff like that. I just, you have to want it. You have to want it so badly. So in everything I've done, I've just tried to see how I can use my sense of humor.
And it sounds like you've found niches for just that.
Yeah. The MS thing came a bit later. I think I had to do some accepting. Yeah. And my friends were like, you have so many stories, Shari, and they're insightful and they are funny and you need to do something with them. So I developed the show that I did in 2011, which I think that it's my mother's MS. I just have it, which is indicative of the situation because my mom is very willing to have this disease with me. But I think I called it at the time On My Nerves, because I wanted it to have a
Yeah.
And seeing how people responded to the show was really, really wonderful. But having MS means it's exhausting to do the show.
Yeah.
Right. So people were like, oh, take it to fringe festivals. And I'm like, no, go to sleep. I won't go to sleep.
Right.
So I didn't have the stamina to keep doing that, which is what I thought was really interesting once podcasts came out. I'm like, oh, I could maybe,
Yes.
But what it got me to do was go back to doing stand-up. So the World Cafe and stuff like that. So I went back to doing stand-up for a little bit and I could, my son was a little older and it was just, but it's not a life that I could commit to.
Right.
So then I went into writing about MS, and that's where the Momentum magazine article came in. And that's when I started to look at, I do satirical writing and I've been on the satire websites and stuff like that, and made crazy great friends through Second City writing workshops and stuff like that, who we all support each other. But the Crazy Cane Lady letter series.
Yeah. What is that about?
That is funny because it dovetails a little bit into how crazy I think the media is.
Yes.
Which I know we can talk about, but
yes, I want to hear your opinions on that.
The Crazy Cane Letters series I was doing so much satirical writing that I thought, well, let me take some of my things I'm like, frustrated by. I can't do stand-up anymore. I have a different idea for a one-woman show, and that's going to have to happen another time. I need an outlet. And so I wrote a series of letters to different entities that I wanted to vent to that are not treating not just the MS community, but the entire community of people with physical disabilities the way that they need to be treated. And with humor, and in some case, unapologetically biting humor.
Yeah.
So there was one to like, dear schools, back to school night does not need to be speed dating. Like this is... I cannot get from my son's chemistry room to his English classroom at the same amount of time he can. I walk with a cane. I have 2 leg braces. And I had, dear Broadway theaters, why are your bathrooms in another country? So I just took apart all these places I've been inconvenienced.
Yeah.
Hotels,
brilliant.
You name it. And I just started posting them on Facebook and made them public, and just got a wonderful, wonderful reaction to them. And then when I did that talk at Penn, I just did like a live reading of the letters in the second half. Yeah. And I'm seeing how that's helping people.
Yeah. I bet.
People are like, oh my God, you're venting, and you're venting what I want to vent, and you should put this in a book, and that kind of thing.
Being funny. Yeah. That's awesome.
And I had a whopper for the media, like, dear mass media. And I just went to town on that.
Well, so you mentioned to me that you have pretty strong opinions about how MS is portrayed in the media. Me too, sister. What do you mean by that? I mean, what's wrong with somebody running through a field of daisies when you have... If you take that pharmaceutical, I think you can run through a field of daisies too. What's wrong with that, Shari?
I have a separate piece that I've written on pharma commercials. The problem is the daisies. It wouldn't be, no, I'm just kidding. It's, you know what? My issues are totally like, the Tecfidera ad that had the person on the Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't even tell you, like, my date would be
right.
Just,
I mean, aren't we
vomiting
always on a Ferris wheel already? Like, who wants to add that?
On a Ferris wheel. And yeah. So media is one thing. So if we talk about like pharma commercials, you know, I've met amazing people in pharma, both on the chemical research side and then on the brand team commercial side who want to get it right.
They do.
And so I thank God for them, because I'm on a drug now that I love. So I'm very, very grateful. Pharma.
Would that be Ocrevus?
It would be.
This is what I hear from people on Ocrevus. I don't hear anybody else saying, I love my drug, but Ocrevus, I hear that from a lot of people.
I could get weepy. I'm really, really happy I switched.
You're all verklempt about Ocrevus.
I'm all verklempt. So I went, so that's media. That's on one side. The mass media that I have the issue with is how celebrities with MS are portrayed. And like, so-and-so is diagnosed, and like you see her and they're having her like in slow motion on the news, and there's like a violin type of music. I'm like, she's not dead. Right. She's not dead. Right. She's, I'm not going to say she's okay, but she's okay enough that she got her publicist to tell you she has MS. Like no one was asking, did that actress have it? Does that actor have it? Does that, you know, people literally put that statement out there. And I want all good and all healthy and good for these celebrities, but it becomes the kind of thing where the news talks about them like they're on their deathbed, and poor them, and it's awkward. It's awkward to be in a room with people when that is on the TV, you know, because I was like, oh, what sad song should go behind me
with my commercial?
I love James Taylor. So can we get Fire and Rain while I'm walking down? It's Fire and Rain. Right. So, you know, I never thought I'd see you again, you know? And so I think
Steamroller would be good for that.
Steamroller would be good. Oh, perfect.
As I'm walking through.
Yeah, you know, walking man, but you know, considerable foot drop on both sides. Yeah, not walking man. Yeah. So you get me. And I think that what I really freaked out about was two things with the media, that like sometimes they get it wrong. They don't do their homework enough. And I believe it was on Good Morning America that after they interviewed the beautiful Selma Blair, that Good Morning America said she's fine now. She was having an exasperation.
It is very exasperating.
I was like, that much. I wish that was the disease that we were like relaxing, remitting exasperation. Like, that's easy. I can handle that.
Just blow off some steam and you're good.
Yeah. So I had issues with them not getting it right, you know, and putting it out there. But also, if a celebrity is diagnosed with MS, my friends and family, unfortunately, all believe I have access to their health charts. And I will get phone calls and texts.
Best friends too.
And you know each other. We go way back. And or Jamie Lynn Sigler or whatever. And I'm like, dude, if I have a best friend with MS, it could be Terry Garr. Hello. You know, so
totally agree.
So I just felt like the media forced us to become spokespeople. Like, well, so why is Selma still able to wear heels and you're not? Yeah, I can explain it to you, but why? Yeah. So, and that wasn't from anybody close to me, but it's random. Oh, Shari's open about her MS. I can ask her anything, and I am. Yeah. I'm really an open book about it, and that helps me. Yeah. I also, work. When you're in marketing, you have clients, and I don't want them to. Before I had the cane, my balance was off, and I didn't want people to think I had a drinking problem.
Yeah, right. You drink at work.
So so I fall, it happens.
Right.
So the media, I think, has improvements to make.
Yes.
In terms of how they portray us.
Yeah. And, I am in patient advocacy now full time. And I do hear from pharmaceutical companies looking for people to put on their ad boards, their advisory boards. And it's picked up over the years. I mean, that was few and far between years ago. And it's gotten to be more and more and more with, groups like savvy.coop and people just really looking out for the patient and getting, hashtag ask patients. That's a savvy co-op hashtag. But
hey, Jen.
Jen and Ronnie, they're the best. And just, amplifying the patient voice, it is just dumbfounding to me that it took somebody shaking them up for them to understand there's a whole different language, number one, that patients speak. And how about you talk to them and get their opinions on these things? Because it can totally behoove you. It can only behoove you.
Mind-boggling, isn't it? Yeah.
It really is. And I think, thankfully, I'm knocking on wood, which is my head right now, to say, I think we have turned a corner. I hope we've turned a corner, although I know those commercials you're talking about, a couple are still running. But I'm hopeful that there's more anyway of this, ask the patient and amplify the patient voice and hire patients. So my other gig is I have a site called Patients Getting Paid. And that's part of what it's about. Like, we have people who can help you, but pay them. Don't just ask them questions. You must pay them. But
I definitely feel like, because, I work in this industry, being a patient has given me a additional perspective on top of what I do.
Right.
And people with MS are also, we're so different. It affects us so differently. And I always have to preamble with that, we're all really, really different. But being that I come from public health and trained in psychology, it was about health literacy. It was about health numeracy. Even when people say, well, Shari, there's an 85% chance. I'm like, well, what's that mean? I don't know. I'm not good at math, so I'm all about what do you need to understand? You need to understand West Wing to understand President Bartlett, to understand MS, because we'll go there, what has to happen.
Yeah.
And with patient advocacy, I thank God it's taken off. I think that was a seed that was really, truly planted with children's hospitals, because right away there were family boards, parent advisory boards, and that lifted up.
That makes sense.
And I think that, and I've written articles about it. I was in PM 360 about this, saying when you're co-creating with patients, don't go to them with the product and say, will you use this? You go to them before that. You say, what will you use? What do you need?
Oh, brilliant.
But, but we're saying that in 2021. And so I was like, listen, there's patient-centric, but you gotta walk the walk.
Yeah.
You got to walk the walk. You can't just
hang that moniker around you and then not.
Yeah. It's a nice adjective to commit to, but you actually have to commit to it. And I remember 2009, I think there was a cover of one of the health industry magazines, and it said something like, surgery is now patient centric. And I was like, what the hell were you before?
Right. Yeah.
Were you surgeon centric? I mean, who's on the table?
Right.
So I have a lot of thoughts about healthcare messaging and stuff like that. Yeah.
Good. I get it. I like it. I agree with it. And I'd say, keep going. Well, this has been so fun. I knew it would. I've been so excited about this one. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And
oh my gosh.
So I think you said that you have a Twitter handle or something. Where can people reach out to you? And I know you're working on a website right now. So I will update that in these show notes when you get that to me. But meantime, where could they reach out and find you?
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at Clever Yet Not. And I'm fine with my email address, which is one word, Shari short @gmail.
Excellent. Okay. And Shari is SHARI, by the way.
Yes. Short for Sharon.
Okay. I like it.
For Sharon. And and if there's anybody who, wants to, speak more about, using humor in dealing with MS and communicating about MS and in coping with it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely eager to hear from people. I'm definitely eager to hear from people. Yeah. And how I can help with that. But at the same time, it's just great to talk
just
about
connect.
It's sometimes just to connect and talk about it. So
totally agree. Especially after this last year we've had. Thank you. I appreciate it. And so before you go, we here in the FUMS Nation speak to the stupid diseases it deserves, and we tell it FUMS every day. Would you please lead us in our salute to the bastard with middle fingers extended, of course?
My pleasure.
Okay, on 3. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
FUMS.
Yay, that was a good one. I liked it. I felt that. You made me feel that one. So thank you very much. I appreciate it again. And take good care and come back and see us.
Thanks for having me.
Quick shout out to Steve Woodward at podcastingeditor.com for the fantastic work on this podcast, including editing, show notes, and ingenious ideas. If you'd like help with your podcast, whether you're just starting out or an old pro, visit podcastingeditor.com and tell Steve I sent you. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you listening to the FUMS podcast show. Be sure to subscribe to it so you won't miss an episode. You can do that right on the website at FUMSnow.com. While you're there, sign up for the free email list so you'll be among the first to know of any new findings in MS research, new therapies and products, as well as any blog posts and podcast episodes I release. Want to chat with others in the FUMS community? Join us on Facebook at FUMS Now. Thanks again, and don't forget to talk to the stupid disease as it deserves. Tell it FUMS every day.